Had you been there to that mountain before?
No, I'd never been to Sedona.
Okay,
No.
so you went in, you saw the mountain,
Yeah.
and then you remembered being at the mountain, but you had never been at the mountain.
I remember having a dream about that mountain, yeah, when I was a kid. And it was wild because I was pretty excited for the training. I was walking around that morning, kind of watching the sunrise. And then I see it come up on that mountain, and I was like, wow. Like I had this kind of sinking, like centering feeling in me because I'd had dreams about that mountain before. And actually they were more like on the nightmare side where I was hiking and would like fall off on top and just completely like that was the sinking feeling.
And you
like
sure it was that mountain?
Pretty damn sure. Yeah.
I am here with Wesley King. He wants to be called Wes in Santa Monica, California. Wes is a biohacker. He has biohacked himself. We'll get into that. He has an interesting story about Biocybernaut in Sedona, Arizona, and his journey has led him in the business field as a investment banker in the health tech startup field. And I'll let Wes explain that a little bit further. But Wes, let's start with your journey of biohacking. But we got to figure out what is biohacking. First of all, how are you, brother? What's going on?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. I'm just popping out of bed about an hour ago, but I've got all my coffee in me and hydrogen water and ready to go.
Hydrogen water. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Volleyball over there in Santa Monica, 69, 70 degrees.
I don't feel good unless I get at least one day in a week with all that sun that I soak up and then all the activity. It really makes me feel a lot better.
All right. And the hydrogen water.
And the hydrogen water.
So what is biohacking? What is it, and how did you biohack yourself?
To me, it's essentially just learning that there are a bunch of inputs into your human body experience. And if you can look at each one of those and slightly optimize it over time, and iterate and iterate and iterate, you can get to the point where you understand your body and how it reacts to things, and in a sense kind of tweak it for what you need at any given time. So if you're playing a lot of sports or have a lot of activity going on, you might go one direction. If you're planning on doing a lot of work or staying up all night for 2 or 3 nights in a row, you can go in a different direction. But if you know how your body reacts to those things, then you have much more control over the outcome, essentially. Like I've learned that I'm super sensitive to coffee and chocolate. So I now have a cutoff of 1 p.m. for coffee and 7 p.m. for chocolate.
And are you having 20 cups of coffee before 1 p.m.? or how
No,
much?
I do one. I'm not sensitive. If I have more than 1 cup of coffee, I will have trouble falling asleep at night.
Okay.
No matter what time. But my cutoff is 1 p.m. for that 1 cup, essentially.
Biohacking is becoming like the new like trend kind of thing, right? But it's biology, your biology. It's Wes King's biology that you're kind of hacking. You're figuring out yourself.
Right. And that's where I'd say like biohacking has always been around. There's been preeminent scientists that probably could be considered biohackers. And everyone's using the term now. But essentially what it means to me is you take all of that information and you're just putting it onto yourself. And what works for you might be different than what works for everyone else.
One person's food is another person's poison.
Totally. Yeah, I just heard that yesterday again from someone else.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's your journey? So what was did you have a health scare that led you to try to figure out, what works for you more so than, I mean, everyone wants to figure out what works for them to make them feel better, but some people are more into it than others. And clearly you're very passionate about it. You and I talked on the phone.
Yeah.
So you have a journey that led you into what you're doing. So clearly you're very passionate about health and wellness and your own health and wellness. So your journey was what?
Well, I've always been, so this is like, I don't know how deep I want to get right away, but I
you
might
gotta
as well
get
just
deep.
go there.
You gotta, come on.
So one of the things that I'm still working on is body image. My image of my own body and how it appears to others and how it appears to myself is something that I still continue to work on. And that has been maybe a third layer thing that I didn't even realize at the beginning was one reason I've always been semi-interested in health. But we can come back to that later. But that's maybe a deeper driver.
Can we stay on that? I don't want to push you too much.
No. So, okay, well, maybe it makes a good story. So from the time
But seriously, it sounds interesting. But if you're not comfortable talking about it, I don't want to push you too much. I want to nudge you so we can learn. I want to nudge you so we can learn a little bit.
I was just wondering how it would fit into the overall story, but I think I can make it fit. So since I've been maybe 6 or 7, been very embarrassed about being a little bit chubbier. And it kind of started around then. I would like wear a t-shirt into the public pool. Like my little like girlfriends at the time would always want me to like come in, like take my shirt off, get in the pool. And I would always like run away and just be embarrassed. And I'm not exactly sure where that came from, but that's one of the first memories I remember of kind of being slightly embarrassed about how I looked. So fast forward 10, 12 years in late high school, I'm still a little bit chubby. Just slightly in my eyes, right? And then I get to college where mass amounts of food, like awful sleep, really poor lighting, like probably burning out my adrenals, which were already probably taxed. And by the time I'm late sophomore year, I put on about 65 pounds and I'm up to 280 pounds and like 34, 35% body fat. And I'm like, I'm 20 years old. I'm 21 years old. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Like I've always been slightly sensitive to my body image and now it's like kind of out of control.
Sure.
And I didn't know what to do next. So I took a nutrition class and all I cared about at the time was losing a little weight, like maybe getting a smaller waist. And that's it. Lowering my body fat, maybe. So they're all very external metrics that aren't really that great of an indicator of health, but that's what I was focused on at the time.
Right.
But being turned on to little things like kilocalories and like the difference between protein and fat and carbs, like those slowly sunk in. And I kind of got addicted to the measurement side and started to think about what are better measures than just what the scale says. And so I started to think about energy and like longevity and happiness and health. And that's where things really switched for me. So from that point, sophomore year to maybe when I was 25, 26, I lost 80 pounds. So I went from 280 to 200.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're a good looking guy.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're handsome. You got a nice smile. You have nothing to worry about.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
You're too hard on yourself.
When I bring up body image, they're like, wait a second, you look pretty good. And I agree with that. Like, I actually have a dichotomy within me where I'm like, I do look good. I am confident. Then there's this other side that's like, well, I could look better. I've always wanted to just look like everyone else. And I think that might come from like just being totally acculturated and driven by like what good looking good is.
Yeah, I agree. You look like Wes King. And that's perfect because that's what you're supposed to look like. And congratulations. I know that was years ago, but congratulations on 80 pounds of weight loss. That's awesome.
Right.
And that journey, I mean, this is the type of stuff. This is the type of stuff I want to hear because you're the everyday guy. People have issues. And part of the reason I'm doing this podcast, I do say this over and over again, but it's sincere and it's authentic. I want to educate people. And we're going to do that, but I also want to empower people. Here's a great example, of a guy who you got up to 280 pounds and you're down 80 pounds and you look good, you sound good, I think you feel good, and it's great. You figured it out. I mean, it's never perfect, but this is good energy. I mean, look at you. I want to give you a compliment because you deserve it.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
And then we're going to have some fun.
I agree. And what I got held up on, even at that point, was, hold on, like I have cold hands still. Like something's happened with my metabolism. I'm talking as like the 200-pounder in me.
Right.
And I have low energy. Like as far as like after lunch at work, I would have to go home and take naps. And that was when it really switched from first layer of lose weight, look better, have a lower body mass index. And then it got to the second layer of live a long time, be happy while you're doing it, and have a really long health span so that you're healthy up until you're 80, 90, 100, not just healthy up until 70 and then live another 30 years. So once I made that switch, then it actually started to change my behavior and my decision making even further to looking in like what was actually the very best thing for me to be eating, or if you switch the word eating to like taking in. So that's not just food, but that's sunlight, that's water. That's where I really got started on biohacking. When I focused on longevity and happiness, that's when I would say I switched into being a biohacker.
So do we all have to move to Santa Monica to be happy, or can we be happy in cold weather places?
You do. I don't think you do.
Some places don't get as much sunlight as Santa Monica, but
Really?
so all right, so sunlight, water. So what works for you? What doesn't work for you?
I'll
What did
even
you think-
add
Yeah.
like family and connection. Because you mentioned Santa Monica, I immediately think of the last time I left Santa Monica and went to visit people I love. That is another thing that you're taking in that like provides energy, and that like is a true key part to happiness.
Yes.
Connection.
Connection.
So connection.
So do you have
the-
family in Santa Monica?
No, I don't. No, I have family in Michigan and Colorado. And then I have a lot of friends back in North Carolina, up in San Francisco, and elsewhere. So that's really what I've been that's been on my mind lately as another form of food, is that connection.
Primary nutrition.
Primary nutrition, primary family, primary.
Kind of overrides in my mind, and a lot of times it overrides kale and even sleep, and you know you can do those things and be healthy and exercise and play volleyball, but the primary nutrition, connection, friends, family, that's a big piece of it. I think it's a big, huge chunk of it.
Totally.
So
and I think one modifier for health and diet and healthy lifestyle is you being totally at peace with any given moment, at least a few times a day. And that will allow your body to actually get into a relaxed state, a parasympathetic state. And anything you're doing at that point is going to go further, or any kind of bad thing that you put into your body then is not going to have as bad of effects. So
yeah. So what do you do? So like your exercise, you play volleyball. So what's like your routine as far as exercise, eating, you know, what you drink, what you don't drink, all that stuff?
So the biggest thing I do is make sure that I get good sleep, because everything else kind of stacks on top of that. So what I do to get good sleep is I wear these blue blocking sunglasses after 7 p.m.
Okay.
And then I also have a program on my computer that cuts out the blue light. And so what that does is it allows my body to slowly realize that it's actually nighttime and get into the state where I'm actually going to fall asleep quickly and stay asleep the whole time, and as measured by deep sleep cycles, which you can measure with your phone or other apps. So that
measure with your phone with the blue light filter on.
Yeah, exactly.
Not after
blue
7 p.m.
filter on everything. So if you're getting that blue light signal, essentially what that's doing through your optic nerve is signaling to your body that it may still be daytime. And so even a little hit of that, even a few seconds of that at bright blue light, can throw off your sleep rhythm that night or for the next 2 or 3 hours.
So how do we know that it's even, because I do that with my kids. I'll believe it or not. I mean, I will watch a little TV late at night. The Yankees, I'm a big Yankees fan. They lost last night, but that's a whole nother story. I hate the Red Sox. Oh my God, damn it.
Well, I'm a Rockies fan, and
See
they
what
got
happened?
total.
I just talked about something that upset me, and I just shut down. Fuck. Yeah, the Yankees lost. So I was watching the Yankees last night. They lost to the Red Sox, and God, I probably fell asleep at, I don't know, 11:30, which is too late, but I'm a diehard Yankees fan. And then obviously I don't have a blue light filter on my TV. They probably do have them on some TVs, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
And so it's signaling my brain that, hey man, you're supposed to be up. You're not supposed to be asleep. And then when I do finally fall asleep last night, being 11:30, I probably, at least in my mind, didn't have the quality of sleep that I should have had because of all the blue light.
Potentially, yeah. I think it's important to realize that sometimes if you feel fine, like just go with it and don't like judge yourself, for having not done it perfectly, because you can get caught up in that too. But I would say that there's a few things you can measure: how fast you fall asleep, how sleepy you feel, and then there's actually all the movement and the deep sleep that you're getting during the night. So one of those three things is usually affected if you have that hit of blue light or aren't doing other things before bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
in addition to that, I do magnesium to help fall asleep too. And like I said, I work backward from that hour I want to fall asleep and cut off certain substances earlier in the day. So I really love dark chocolate. I usually eat 100%. And I've realized over time and testing my sleep that I really can't do it after 7 p.m. And so even if a friend is offering me chocolate at like 9:30 at night or something, just have a little piece. I've just learned over time that that's going to affect my sleep for sure. So I have to like save it for the next day.
But what's interesting is this is stuff that may affect other people as well. And honestly, dark chocolate and coffee, I'm similar. So if I have it too late, it's not going to go well.
Yeah.
But the beauty of this is that it won't necessarily do the same, because I know some people, they can have coffee at any point and be out cold.
Absolutely. And I'm so jealous of them. My girlfriend can knock up an espresso at 9 p.m. and be totally asleep. She can have the blue light going, right, like a minute before bedtime and be fully asleep. But we've never like tested how deep is she sleeping, right?
Right.
So I don't know for sure if that's affecting anything or not. But in any case, if she can fall asleep, go for it.
So this is what I want to talk to you about. This is really interesting. Biocybernaut. I didn't know what Biocybernaut was until we have a mutual friend who told me about you and Biocybernaut, and I've learned a little bit more about it. Tell us about Biocybernaut. Where did you go? What does it do? What is this whole thing about? Because it is really interesting.
It is. It's wild.
It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. I found out about it right around the time I was quitting my corporate job. So I used to work in tech at Cisco up in San Jose. And I decided after 6 years that I just wasn't getting like the creative side of me expressed there. And that's a really high side of me. So as I was quitting there, I decided I need something to kind of help me steer in a new direction, because the only job I'd ever had, I was quitting. And so I didn't know if my skills would qualify for me for other jobs elsewhere, if I wanted to be a freelancer or a contractor, just do my own thing. I really had very little direction on what I was going to do next. So when I heard about Biocybernaut, I immediately put it on my bucket list. And then right around this time I was quitting, it kind of triggered that feeling of like, this might be the thing that could set me in a great direction. And what I was drawn to about it is that I'd heard it would help me increase my creativity, which I already had really high creativity, but I wanted to be able to deliver on that better. At my previous job, I was coming up with ideas, like hundreds of ideas over the course of a year, and I had trouble executing them. I had a bit of ADD around these projects. So I really wanted to see if I could shift that. And I read through all the research on their website, and it looked like they were doing things that would impact ADD, that would help the creativity kind of go from right brain and left brain and back and forth in a coherent way so that you can get things done and still be creative.
Okay, so the left and right brain will work back and forth with each other?
Potentially more together. So as soon as you hook up to a machine that offers you some feedback, you can see what's going on as far as the brain activity in different brain waves. And in some certain brainwaves, in some people, you might have this offset experience where their left side, for example, is really high and their right side is low, meaning kind of following definition that they're way more logical but way less creative. Or the opposite, where someone is like over expressing creativity and is not really able to integrate that and be logical and like get things done in life because they're just expressing creativity.
So
and
is that the left side of the brain, the creativity?
Right side. Right side
right
is usually creativity, and then left side is more logical.
So
typically.
it can unlock certain brain waves in each side to enhance that?
In a sense, yeah. So here's where we get into the weeds of how it happens. You get in there, you kind of see your brain waves for maybe the first time.
Where is this place?
There's one in Sedona, and then there's one in Victoria, Canada, and there's another one in Germany. The one I went to is in Sedona. Yeah. So I drive into Sedona, and it's just beautiful. Had never been there. Love the red rocks all around the city. I actually have this like kind of awestruck moment where I see one of the mountains behind the center, and I remember these dreams I had when I was 6 or 7 years old of this mountain, like, which was a really wild moment as I'm walking into the center. Yeah, that's kind of this odd little story I haven't really figured out how to explain yet.
Oh, no, that's interesting. So had you been there to that mountain before?
No, I'd never been to Sedona.
Okay,
No.
so you went in, you saw the mountain,
Yeah.
and then you remembered being at the mountain, but you had never been at the mountain.
Having a dream about that mountain, yeah, when I was a kid. And it was wild because I was pretty excited for the training. I was walking around that morning, kind of watching the sunrise. And then I see it come up on that mountain, and I was like, wow. Like, I had this kind of sinking, like, centering feeling in me because I'd had dreams about that mountain before. And actually, they were more like on the nightmare side, where I was hiking and would like fall off on top and just completely like that was the sinking feeling.
And you
like
sure it was that mountain?
Pretty damn sure. Yeah.
You weren't hallucinating with mushrooms or anything like that?
No, I had no mushrooms in my system. Yeah.
You sure?
So I'm not completely sure. Like, I just had never seen a mountain like that. And I had seen it I saw it that morning, and I thought, and my brain and my heart made the connection. So I don't know for absolutely sure if it was the same one, but it kind of felt that way.
Now I'm teasing, but
yeah,
it's cool. It's I believe that stuff. I think I believe a lot of things. I think that's really neat. It's amazing. So what do they do there? Do you get to hang out and hike, or do they just it's all work and
very little hiking?
Glue stuff onto your skull and
mostly
put you
work,
in a dark room for 15 hours a day?
Yeah, they break out the skull glue, they hook up all the attachments, and they let you run. And how they let you run is they've created a protocol to create a system for you to practice raising your alpha brainwaves, which is the brainwave that's associated with all the stuff I'm talking about, creativity, even some inner peace, like reported by different people, and it's also happens to be the brainwave state of advanced meditators. So people who have basically dedicated their life to meditating, like monks.
Right.
And when you study their brainwaves after 20 to 30 to 40 years, they have certain brainwave signatures. And so that was really what they're optimizing for. They're training to that point. They're trying to help you get there in 7 days through the training protocol to recreate the brainwaves of someone who has meditated for that long.
Is that so? If brainwave signatures what is that exactly? Is that like you look at something in the brain and there's something added there from 20 to 30 years of doing this? There's something there more so than other people?
I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I know a few things about this. So one thing that is there is you'll have certain regions of the brain that have more dense tissue and more fatty matter. I know that. And that's kind of just an overall meditation research finding. And then when I say signatures, what I mean is that there's different layers of different brainwaves going on at any given moment: alpha, theta, beta, delta, gamma. And so there's basically 5 levers that you could be pulling at any given time, or that are expressed at any given time. And so certain signatures means there are certain levels of different ones. If one's falling, one's rising. If one's coherent from left to right at the same time. If one's coherent from the back of the brain to the front. So as you can see, if you add all these variables in, there's a lot of permutations of what could be possible happening in your brain. But certain ones are associated with certain brain states and certain people. And so when I say certain signatures, like really advanced meditators have this spreading theta coming from the back of their head to the front. And they also have high alpha across the whole brain. And they have coherence between the right and left side. So the typical person going in for the first time who doesn't meditate is almost never going to have that state. But if you go to most Zen meditators, 30 plus years, you're going to see something very, very similar to that state.
Wow.
And so that's what they're training you towards. And the process for how they do that is also very interesting.
So what is that process?
How they do
How
that
much
is
does this
they
cost?
essentially
How much does this cost?
Between 15,000 and 25,000, up to 35,000. Yeah, it's really expensive, and that's one of the reasons it was on my bucket list for a while. And that's also a reason why I kind of look back and just laugh, because I did it at the moment when I was quitting my job and getting rid of all my financial security. Actually, I basically liquidated my savings at that point to go do it.
Wow.
And so it took me about 5 to 6 months afterwards to really start recommending it to people, because I was trying to figure out, was it worth the money?
And it was.
And it was. After I hit that 5 and 6 month mark, I started to reevaluate and say, you know what, it was. It really was, because it's really turned on my ability to execute, to be the person that people rely on in a project, to get stuff done, which is the exact opposite of what I was before. Really? I was the creative person, and I switched into being able to execute and deliver, which was brand new for me.
You're just, are you in like, so they hook you up to these electrodes, and you're just, what's going on there? I'm trying to picture
as you're hooked up, then you go through this series of tests that are akin to a brain polygraph test. So as you talk through different things, themes, issues, words, associations, they identify certain concepts or topics that you may be lying to yourself about, essentially, at a really kind of nervous system level. Like your body's kind of signaling one thing, what's coming out of your mouth is different. And so they can just help highlight for you where you may be lying to yourself, or where there's more that you maybe haven't expressed in a certain area. And these all come down to like mini traumas, medium traumas, and like really big traumas. Really? And so for some people, it's things that have happened to them that are just like awful stories, huge accidents or abuse. And those are big things that they maybe have talked about with therapists. Maybe they haven't. They've talked about it with friends. Maybe they've never shared it.
This comes out during this process. Is there a person working with you? Are you in a room by yourself? Is there 2 people or 5 people? Or
so it's a combination of, not only do you have the presence of a coach who's a trainer and has been doing this for over a decade.
Okay.
You also are in a training with several other human people. So you have this whole interplay of their emotions, like things that come up for them when you're sharing these things that you maybe haven't spoken before. And not necessarily that they're going to chime in, but more all of the information that comes from those intense, deep conversations becomes something that will actually help you get to a higher alpha brain state.
Wow.
So that's really the mechanism. That's really the mechanism that they've found that works. Is on the very end, we have high alpha brain states as meditators. In the middle, we have this kind of brain polygraph test that challenges you in different areas. And then you explore it through your own ability to bring it into words and see what comes up there. And after all that, you take it into a neurofeedback chamber and focus on forgiving these mini traumas or major traumas in your life. And where the key is as you truly forgive those things will happen to your brainwaves and your body that will signal that you've truly, truly forgiven them. And that was really the power of the technology, because you may have been meditating or working on different issues for years and years and years. You may not have actually deeply, at a nervous system or neurological level, forgiven them. And so when you actually do that, that is the portal through which you can raise your alpha brainwaves. So that is the hack. That is the thing that they can help recreate those brainwaves in 5 to 7 days. It's because they're going through that portal of forgiving many traumas, which raises your alpha brainwaves.
Really? So trauma, like, so, your dad spanked you, or so whatever it may be, whatever traumatic experience for that particular person, how do you truly forgive? They teach you how to truly forgive?
You can go through, if you look up forgiveness online or even there's a lot of different little ways you can try to forgive a situation. There's putting yourself in someone else's shoes. There's trying to see it from a third person's perspective.
Right.
There's trying to just tear away the story of what's going on in a situation and just connect with that person on just like a soul to soul level. Wow. There's a lot of, and that's more of like, that doesn't make logical sense, but it does make sense to your heart in a way, or your soul in a way. So there's a bunch of different ways, and maybe one works better for you. What worked really well for me was putting myself in someone else's shoes. And then the other one that works well for me is what I mentioned, which is forget all the circumstances and stories surrounding this person and me let's just connect with them one-on-one, or connect with the child who I was at the time that experienced this thing that may have been pretty innocuous, but ended up being a trauma to my nervous system. Like you said, it could be just a spanking, right? Like that could be a traumatic event depending on how that little human interprets it.
Right. Wow. That's how many people were there other than you?
There were 3 other people there, and those are other kind of trainees, and then there's the trainer.
Wow. And it's for 7 days?
Yeah. 7 days, 10 to 14 hours a day.
So use it or lose it. You have to keep, they train you obviously for 7 days to learn how to get into these alpha states.
Mm-hmm.
You need to obviously continue to do that in order to keep that state. I'm assuming, is that correct?
And I kind of like to explain it in this way. In a way, you can keep on meditating and then build even more power of these different states, or even just continue to get the benefits of daily meditation or weekly meditation. On another level, if you got through something that was traumatic to you in your nervous system and you truly forgave it, those things that surround that context, those little triggers that you've had day to day, could be gone. And so that
gone for good.
That should impact you for the rest of your life.
Gone for good. Like they're gone. Like if you truly forgive your central nervous system's traumatic experience, it won't come back.
Pretty much. Yeah, at least that's been the case for me. Now, I'm not saying there won't be little things. Maybe there's 20 different triggers that could get you to like trigger one feeling. Maybe there's a few still there that like at least put you into a certain like state of anger or something.
Right.
But your ability to get through that is much faster. And in a way, it feels like it doesn't get encoded. Like, yeah, you might be angry for a few minutes. You might choose to forgive a situation or not, but it doesn't feel like it gets stored again. And so it's not going to be re-triggered in the future. So I'm not to say like you're happy all the time or never triggered again. It's just that you have, it seems like much more resilience to these things.
It's happening. The same stuff's happening. You can handle things easier.
Yeah.
You can handle. You're not flying off the handle with road rage. You're able to process it and deal with it.
Yeah.
More calmly in a mindful manner.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's almost like as if these traumatic experiences, it was an imprint in the brain, which I think it is. And then you're really kind of just getting that out of your brain, right? Somehow, some way through this process, which is, to me, sounds really cool. $15,000 is pretty steep, but it was worth it.
It was, yeah. I could definitively say that after 6 months, because I found myself working for 3 or 4 different clients and just doing an awesome job for all of them, like being a reliable part of their business process and helping them increase sales and like really have better businesses that made more money and that impacted more people. And it was what I wanted before, when I was coming up with all these innovative ideas, but was never able to accomplish. And it's in part, and I mean, this isn't just Biocybernaut. It's in part because I quit a job that I wasn't really jazzed about and started getting more in line with all these things that I was. So it all is an interplay. But honestly, Biocybernaut helped me have the confidence to do that, to just drop corporate and go on my own and do my own thing.
So what kind of meditation do you in order to keep this going? Like, For
me, I do. What really works really well for me is something called a loving kindness meditation, or anything related to heart meditation. I find that opening my heart is a very powerful practice for just being in a good mood for like the next 3 or 4 days after that. And at the level of the heart, it helps me process different things and different feelings that are going on that may not be caught up in my mind. Like, I'm not that aware of my own like negative thoughts, but sometimes when I run them through the heart to forgive, I realize that they were impacting me in a wider way, in a way I didn't know.
But how do you do that? So how do you run them through your heart? What exactly are you doing?
That's the key. I mean, that's the hard part. I have a little device called HRV device that will really measure my coherence between my heart and my brain. And so I use that.
HRV?
HRV, yeah. So HRV is a really powerful kind of technology, or almost software processing that's being moved more into different hardware wearable devices. So
is the blue light filter on?
What's that? The
Is
blue
the
light
blue
filter?
light filter on
No,
the
I actually
HRV?
I don't need to see it. I don't need to see it. You can get little pings and little notes as you're increasing your HRV.
Okay, good.
But HRV is going to be more installed across a lot of different hardware devices, I think, because I see it coming in different wearables, in different watches you can put on your wrist, and they can actually measure your HRV in real time, which helps with a lot of things. It'll help you see, oh, maybe I shouldn't work out this day. My nervous system is already overtaxed. I need to do a little bit more recovery before I work out, and then it's going to be a lot more effective. That's one way that HRV works. The way I use it is for, what's that?
What does HRV stand for?
Heart rate variability. It's the variability between the signals that your heart sends out, which is actually healthy if there's some slight variability beat to beat. That's how I understand it anyway. So if your heart does not have a high HRV, that will signal that certain other things are going on, and that you're not in a true state of recovery or parasympathetic recovery. So if you can actually optimize that, get into a state of recovery for a few days, then you can actually go harder and recover better from future workouts or brain workouts, whatever you're trying to do.
Wow, this is pretty sophisticated stuff.
Yeah, I think that is maybe the one technology that's coming the fastest, because Apple's using it now, measuring it. Pretty much every new wearable that's coming out, like the Fitbit style wearables, have HRV tracking. The question is how well can companies kind of notify you that certain events are going on with your heart rate variability that will actually change your behavior. So if they say your HRV just dropped by 20 points or 10 points or whatever it is, what did you just do? That could be a really great indicator to you, like, oh, me doing this, me checking that email, or me talking to that person really dropped my heart to brain coherence. Or me eating that one thing really dropped my coherence there. So it just can potentially give you little alerts as to what's going on in your life that may be affecting you at that level.
Even if you check an email and it like bothered you, it'll signal that it bothered you.
Yeah, it could potentially. Again, we're not to that level of sophistication yet, I don't think, where anyone's really figured out that specific way to notify you in real time. But I think we're getting very close. And I may be wrong about that. There may be a company that's already doing that.
They need to tap into their alpha brainwaves in order to figure it out.
It's very tough. I mean, I coming as someone who taught innovation and had high alpha, it's tough to marry that like creativity with actually delivering to the end customer what they want.
So getting back, though, to opening up your heart, because I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
In order to access the alpha waves, in order to maintain what you had at Biocybernaut, what is it like physically? Are you in a room? Are your eyes closed? Are you drinking water? Like, how are you doing this? Is it something like...
I found a few things that really helped me. If I actually put my left hand over my heart for about 5 to 7 minutes and I'm just being still and focusing on that, that will really help me feel way more connected to my heart, which is essentially what you're trying to get to. You're trying to just feel like, oh, I can feel where my heart is in my body, and I can feel how it impacts the rest of my body. There's certain ways I can get there too, of like thinking about, you're supposed to kind of start with people you really love and you have no hangups on, even if it's a dog or something. You can start there, and then you slowly move out into people that you actively maybe dislike or bother you throughout the day. So if you move and can bring love to every single one of those people, and if I do this in the morning, then throughout the rest of the day, I'm like the happiest person to all people. It's just, it gives you that perspective that you're just holding on to little things that are just like kind of made up in your head and your heart, essentially.
Interesting. So
And
your
and
mom,
you should
your
have
dad,
like look
your
up
dog, your sister, your brother, oh, I love you, I love you. The mailman, I love you. But the UPS driver, you fucking asshole, I can't stand you. So how do I let go of the UPS driver that pisses me off, or whatever it may be?
If you've kind of ramped up to that point and you truly are you'll feel it. Like your heart will feel bigger, hotter, warmer, almost like it's working out, like a strained muscle in a way. And if you can get to that point and then bring that to the mailman, then you can kind of like feed him love and forgiveness at the same time. And that may help you release some of that kind of pent up anger at the mailman.
Do you do this every day?
No, I don't. But like everyone else, I probably should. Everyone says I probably should. Yeah.
Well, easier said than done. How often do you do this type of meditation?
I try to do that once a week. Yeah.
So you're forgiving these people. Wow. That's gotta be.
And I would look it up because there's probably great guided loving meditations. Again, I don't really teach meditation or anything. So there's probably really great audio downloads or something that you could use. Again, that's for me. What I found is if I can focus my meditation on my heart system, that has a lot more impact for me than trying to like do a sit down and focus type meditation.
It's unbelievable the stuff that's out there that can improve your health and wellness, and like this is one of them that's like it's crazy.
Yeah, I think I really love the interplay between hardcore like do this, take this supplement, like drink this thing, and then coming all the way back to the other side, which is just like work on your feelings, work on feeling more, work on increasing your emotional palette so that you can kind of like really identify what emotion you're going through at a time. Because being out of touch with your emotions can potentially harm you, especially over the long term as well. So, both sides, yeah.
Left and right brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who started Biocybernaut? Who's behind this?
There's a guy named Dr. James Hart that has been researching it for about 40 years, going back to the university days. And he kind of brought all these things together, these different modalities into one process of forgiveness and like Zen meditation, high alpha, all this research. So he's been reading and writing and executing this idea for the last 40 years. But as a business, I believe somewhere around like the last 20 years.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you can look into him more too. There's a lot of videos online and like, of course, a ton of research that he's participated or written.
How am I going to take 7 days? How am I now I want to go to Biocybernaut, but how am I going to get out there for 7 days? And
that's the thing. It's not only a money investment, it's a time investment. And for some people who are very, very busy, that is almost a bigger deal, is taking off that 7-8 days.
Yeah, time is money.
Yeah.
I guess if you live near Sedona, that's a plus.
That helps. Yeah.
That would help.
The great thing is I've gotten to talk to a lot of people that have done it, and I've never heard that anyone regretted like taking that time away, even if they were a very busy person, have regretted that time away.
That's true. I know 2 people who did it. Well, we have a mutual friend, Billiana, who did it. She raves about it. You know Billy Hardigan?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
We can cut this part out. They don't have to use Billy's name on the podcast, but yeah, he's another buddy of mine who went there who just raves about it. He's like, it's unbelievable. I would do it again. He wants to go back.
Yeah, the way I see it is expensive, but it can increase, and Dr. Hart has written about this, your earning potential over time by like between $1,000 and $2,000 every year, essentially. Sure. So if you're younger, or you're still of working age, that's really a good decision point for a lot of people looking at that. I have a good 20 to 40 years of work left, and this could have a significant impact on my ability to be a manager or director or VP somewhere if I want to, or just run my own business, which is what a lot of people come in that are doing. They are the CEO of a small business or a big business.
No, to me, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, the first initial, it's 15,000, 20,000. It's like, ooh. But listen, I mean, if it were, I don't know if it works, but you're saying it works, and I know a couple other people that say it works, and if it does, then why not? Why not?
And the great thing about it is you're coming at it from 3 different angles. One is like direct neurofeedback. Another is a brain polygraph test. Yeah. And then the third is actually forgiving traumas. So even if you don't believe one part of that works, even if you don't just say, I just don't believe in neurofeedback or I don't believe in forgiveness, there are these other 2 things coming at you that may you may go through an experience where you're like, oh, wow, I do feel different. And you can't argue with experience is the thing. I've been thinking a lot about this lately. Like we can all give each other tips and like we can all read a lot about it, improving this or like increasing performance in that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can't argue with your own experience, which kind of comes back to biohacking, like your own experience of life and of health and of energy, of productivity, of happiness. You can't take those away from people. If you go through a joyful moment with somebody, no one can ever explain that experience away. So that's how I view like people who are like a little skeptical about it. I'm like, that's totally fine. One of these three things is going to get you to dig deeper into yourself and express that than you ever have before. And there's great benefits to that too.
That's a good point. I like the way you explain that. That's cool.
Thank you.
Do you have to go for 7 days, or can you go for 3 days?
I think 5 is the minimum. There's a 5-day option. But most, like I think 98% of people do the 7-day thing and don't regret it again.
I got to get out there. Damn. I got to make that work. That's going to be tough. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's a deep experience. It's unlike anything else. That's why it's like kind of maintained its little niche and this little kind of protective network around it of people that have loved doing it, and they just tell a few people and they go do it. What I've helped them with over the last 18 months is really turning that network on to being online and getting more awareness through the digital realm. Because up until then, it's mostly been word of mouth and different speaking engagements.
I love it, Wes. That's a great story.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations on biohacking yourself. But I sincerely say, I mean, losing weight and going through your journey of getting to peace and happiness, where it seems like you're at a good spot in your life and doing something you love. It's a big deal. And thanks for sharing.
It really comes from being in alignment with your passions, being in alignment with your values. And that is not all Biocybernaut. It was a big part of it, but it's more just, it helped me make the decisions to put me there in a way. So it was kind of the progenitor to all these great decisions.
What do you think, Christian? We're going out to Sedona, you and me, buddy?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. On you?
On me? You kidding? It's your podcast.
Split the bill.
All right. 60-40.
60-40. It does sound good. I bet you I'll be out there sooner than later.
Cool.
But hey, man, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Great story. Sounds like you're doing great. Good luck to you. I'd love to have you on again.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, let's talk more about just the health industry and like where I think it's going or where you think it's going. I would just love to, and even if we're just on the phone, let's just talk about it. Because I think it's an exciting time to be alive.